And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome into RBLR Bandits here at RBLR Sports. My name is Eureka, and alongside me is the one and only Zach Blaine. Mr. Blaine, what's good, my guy?
What is going on, Eureka? How are you doing today, my man?
I'm doing well. I would do better if the Lightning were winning their series. I would be better if the Tampa Bay Bandits would have eked out yet another comeback victory. But alas, those two things are not true. So, how are you, man? What's up? What was your big thing other than the Bandits game this week?
Other than the Bandits game this week, getting to watch Miami pull ahead in the series again. So we're rooting for the Heat tonight. They're playing now. We'll see how that goes. So that's my prayer for tonight is we got to get the Heat to just close out the series and send Philly home.
Well, with you listening to this at home, we appreciate you taking time out of your day. If you could, we are at RBLR Bandits on Twitter, and we are on every single platform at RBLR Sports as the entire network. We talk every single week about your Tampa Bay Lightning, Tampa Bay Bucks, Tampa Bay Rays, and your Tampa Bay Rowdies. And even more. From time to time, we even do an NBA show. There'll be another one of those coming up. So, again, at RBLR Sports. Thank you, and we're going to give you hopefully we give you a way better show than the showing that the Bandits had on offense in this game. We are definitely going to get into all that, but Zach, just overall elevator pitch of like what were your thoughts about this game overall?
I think overall, again, it was just a very poor offense mixed with mediocre defense. That's just my quick little cliff notes.
Yeah, if you look at the score, not a barn-burning shootout. Tampa Bay unfortunately loses to the number one team in the USFL. We had them ranked number one, and they lost 16-10. And I guess my thoughts are that, despite all the things that went wrong, we had injuries. There was weird officiating. There was even friendly fire injuries, things like that. Even after all those things, the Bandits had it down to one score late in the fourth. And so, to me, we'll get into this, of course. It's going to be good going through your notes and my notes because I was like, I actually liked that the D was able to make multiple stops throughout this game, but the offense just... That's probably going to be the bulk of the show is talking about the bad things about this offense. But even at halftime, it was 10-7, Bandits on top at the half. Both offenses just not being able to get anything going. I have it written in my notes, a true defensive battle. One key difference, though, is that Birmingham was able to keep the Tampa Bay offense off the field with long, sustained drives. Let's get into defense first, because I know you're a big defensive guy. I want to get your thoughts first and foremost. Let's give them their flowers first. I know you said mediocre, but if you could, what were some of the good things that you liked from this Tampa Bay defense over this game?
I did say mediocre, and I want to clarify that because our front seven played very, very good football. They did not. Our backfield is what is holding us back. Our defensive backs are what's holding us back right now. And I say that because we came out, we had 4 sacks, played pretty good run defense, but it seemed like every time we get a big play, it was given up on third down by our defensive backs.
Absolutely, I think great pressure up front. If you look at Travis Feeney, man, 1 sack, 9 tackles on the day,
animal.
2 of those for lost, and a pass deflected. That was a huge, huge pass deflection. Dalen Mack, 7 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. Reggie Howard had a sack and 2 pass deflections. Michael Scott, when he's not selling paper, he had a sack today. Greg Reeves, our boy Greg Reeves, or at least my boy, had a part in a sack today. Yeah, man, they just got really, really, really good pressure up front. I also have to shout out Christian Sam. He's just a tackle for loss machine who was stuffing runs up the middle, especially early in this game. Who were your kind of standouts up front?
Yeah, you nailed my number one standout right off the rip. Feeney was an animal. It seemed like he was anywhere for a play to be made, he was there, which is kind of what we see in Christian Sam, and it's nice to see that in someone who plays more of a rush role, be able to be kind of everywhere and do everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we keep singing his praises this whole season. Even coming into it, it was a guy that you had specifically mentioned that this is a guy we need to watch for, and he hasn't disappointed. And like I said, one of the few bright spots was definitely that front seven. Moving on, I also kind of thought the DBs, even though they did give up the third down conversions a lot this game, I did want to praise them, I guess, for getting dirty at least. Chaffee, Meeks, Rennell Hall. Unfortunately, you don't want your cornerbacks and safeties being the leaders in tackles, but nothing was like they didn't give up a super long play. There were no the longest play in the whole day was 20 yards and not a single yard longer than that. So
Yeah.
for that defense, even the secondary to get they were swarming the ball and they were keeping the plays in front of them. If I had to give the defensive backs some kudos, I would at least say they didn't. There weren't a bunch of Deons that didn't want to tackle anybody. They got dirty, they made the tackles, and they didn't give up big plays.
Yeah, so I do agree with that, and I think that my issue, I guess I'm more I can't think of the proper word for it, but I'm tougher on defensive backs because it's like that's one of my passions is defensive back. Like that's what I played. So like to me that's important. And I guess I'm giving them not enough slack because it could be just the game plan, but I feel like they just play their coverage style is very soft, which I do not like. And I think that's my main issue with them is not that because you're right, they are all dogs. Like none of them are afraid to hit, which I love to see that. But I just feel like a lot of them they play a bunch of zone and it's just not very good zone.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get more into the bad parts of the defense here. Was there any other kudos that you wanted to throw in? I got one more.
You know what? I am going on a tangent about bad stuff. I didn't even think that we were on the good stuff right now, so I apologize.
You're good, buddy.
No, I think you nailed it with Siafi is I mean, it's not good to have him leading us in tackles, but he is probably our best safety, which was a surprise to me with Obi out there. But he's showing why he deserves to be our best safety. He gets all the kudos for me in the defensive backfield.
Yeah, he's definitely stepped up in the absence of Melifonwu, who has been out. But it was like to see him playing hard and Rennell Hall too. I've said those guys again, but yeah, coverage could have been better. We'll get into that, but hey, you know what? As a corner and safety myself, it's like I hated it when I'd have teammates that like if a guy caught a ball, they would give up on the play, or if it's a screen play, God forbid, they had to like shed a block and make a tackle. So, but my last thing that I did want to say is that against the best team in the league, we did show that they're not amazing on offense. The Birmingham Stallions, they were in a fight, and it kept it to a one-score game, which, you know, to be honest, man, if we would have squeaked out this victory, what we would have probably been saying is like, it took every inch, it took every claw, but at the end of the day, they kept it to a one-score game, and you gave the ball to the offense. And that's, I mean, if you're a defense, that's what we did. They only scored 16 points. We should win this game, and you have to be thinking that, especially at this level. It's like, guys, with all the things we're about to say about maybe the bad things that happened, at the end of the day, the defense did their job in terms of they didn't give up more than 16 points, and the offense they made the big stops at the end of the game that gave the offense the chance to win the game, which they had it. So
Yeah, no, and I guess that's another kudos I should give them because they are the reason that we stayed in this game. Without a doubt, they are the reason that we stayed in this game. With that being said, it's something that I'm thankful for, and they're proving. You kind of touched on it a little bit that Birmingham is a beatable team. They're very
yeah.
much so beatable, um, and I think that when we swing back around and we play them again at some point, because it's going to happen in the playoffs, I know it is. Uh, that maybe we'll have a better answer for them on offense.
Well, let's get into it. You were chomping at the bit to throw around a couple bad stickers on their helmets, I guess.
I'm sorry. I know it's so bad. I'm trying to be positive.
No. To be honest, look. I know it was. See, we're fans, and look. I understand that, and this hurts, and I share in the hurt with you, the listener. I mean, it's apparent. Like I want to win every single game. We both did pick this game as a loss, and I was really, really hoping that we would be wrong again. But if I had to write the obituary for this defense, it was that they, and this is to kind of piggyback on what you said, they bent until they broke. Mm-hmm. If you look at the running game, Birmingham racked up rushing yards. They racked up a bunch of rushing yards at 3.9 yards for the running backs at a time. But on multiple times on third down, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, they made stops, but sometimes it was maybe a foul or something that got them. Okay, they gave it up. Or they would get it to 3rd and short, and then they just loop it over somebody, or there's just they get one extra yard, or that little bit of, and that was death by 1,000 razor blades. And they just could never deal that final blow, that just death blow, get you off the field, make it 3rd and long, get you off the field, and turn it around so that our offense could own the possession. So that was my thing. It would have been really, really nice to just punch him in the mouth for 3 straight plays and make him punt, but that didn't happen in this game.
No, and it didn't happen, and that's kind of one of my biggest things. So obviously I touched on the coverage or lack thereof, on how soft it was, which to me, I think that we were set up to play a zone defense like we had talked about in previous shows. I didn't expect us to play 10 yards back on their receivers that are running 6-yard routes. So I wasn't expecting that, and that's kind of my biggest concern and worry is that we are playing so soft that they don't have to throw. Like we mentioned, like you had mentioned earlier, their longest play was 20 yards, but they still, death by 1,000 razor blades. It was just dink and dunk all day, and it seemed like every time they would throw a little 5-yard in route or a little button hook, it was always open. And with that aside, our defensive front can only do so much. I wouldn't ever expect them to keep us in the game 100% of the time, but that's what they're doing right now. And then it felt like every run, especially in more so the second half, which maybe it was just fatigue, but it felt like every time they ran the ball, it was at least one missed tackle. And I don't know if that's something that you noticed as well, but I noticed a lot of times there was at least one missed tackle, or one guy would hit him, and then we'd have to wait for 3 more guys to take him down. And that was mostly on Maribel that I noticed it.
Yeah, late in the game, you're battling fatigue, you're battling injuries. There were a couple guys getting banged up throughout the length of the game. In the early going, the defense was more. I guess the thing I'll throw in is to go with that is that penalties were my big thing. Like in the first half, it was mostly penalties that were just elongating drives, and it just case in point, there was a pass interference flag that was right after a sack. Yeah, there was it just negates this awesome play, and there we go, first down. There was a unnecessary roughness right after a phenomenal bat down at the line of scrimmage. So it was a great, and that was on, I believe it was on third down.
Yeah, it was.
Like, it was a great third down play, and then unnecessary roughness from, punching each other after the play, and you're the last guy, that kind of thing.
I don't remember exactly who it was, but I remember the number because I remember thinking it was kind of a BS call that it was just on us. But I do know it was on number 6, and I watched the replay, and watching it, I was like, where do you get? If anything, it should have been an offsetting penalty. But even if it wasn't an offsetting penalty, if you're not going to call it on the other guy who's doing the exact same thing, don't call it, because I remember watching it and thinking that's just. I'm going to clean it up for the show, obviously, but I was like, that's wrong. That's BS. There's no way that should have been a penalty.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, man, you get taught as a player, don't retaliate. If you're the last guy, you're the one that gets called.
Exactly.
And they know that's Christian Sam, right? Number 6. So we are aggressive. Everyone knows, and we talked about this. We talked about the dog that is in this team.
We did.
And they're the most penalized team, and we thought that would happen. We knew that this was going to be a rough and rugged, just gritty, but also half insanity, man. These are dudes that are foaming at the mouth to knock your block off, and as cool as that is, if you're able to take advantage of your opponent, then you get these things. You get unnecessary roughness. You get pass interference. You get guys jumping off. All this stuff. And that was for all of the great things that they did and all of the bending but not breaking until it broke at the very end or whatever, we shot ourselves in the foot with penalties. And it was and this isn't something that I wish we could fix it overnight, but this is a character trait of this team. This is what they do, and unfortunately, on the other side of the ball, they didn't score enough points to offset the bad part of the defense. So, if you're going to, for as much as we love how will knock your block off, this is something you got to live with. This is the but.
Yeah, exactly, I believe we both predicted at some point in the offseason that we were going to be one of the more penalized teams just based off of the stuff that we had seen from these guys coming in. So it's not something that I'm surprised about. I will say I'm surprised at some of the dumb / bonehead penalties that we're taking. But it's something that we're lucky we're not losing by more with some of these, I guess I should say.
Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree with you where, for whatever reason, we're not getting a huge play right after a penalty, right? We're not getting, because, that's just a demoralizer.
Yeah, exactly.
As bad as it is to bat down a ball on third down, and then have some dude smack a guy in the helmet and oh, well, now guess what? It's first down all over again. We went from punting the ball to now we have to play 3 more plays. It's even worse when you give up a 40-yard PI flag and then the very next play is a go route and they score a touchdown. And it's not only did you not get off the field, now you're down even more. So, and you gotta come back from all that. So it's just, man. Again, I love the tenacity and I love the intensity of this defense. Just got to clean it up. If they have a chance, if they want to keep a chance of going to the playoffs this year, that's going to have to be the difference, because until the offense, and we're about to get into the offense, until the offense can show that they're going to score 3 touchdowns a game, these guys are going to have to pitch shutouts or pitch, as close to it as they can get. And that's the only way that this team is going to win going forward. So, but let's do flip it. Let's say if there's, let's start. We have a lot of bad things to talk about the offense. Okay. Let's start with the good though. Is there anything good you would like to say about this offense?
Talmu didn't throw an interception.
There's that. There we go. Okay.
We didn't look. we didn't look terrible in the first half. Um,
Okay.
and to give Emmons some credit, who I know that I'm a Washington guy, but Emmons did not in the first half. He did something that I really liked, and it was him following his blockers. And by that I mean had an arm on their back until he couldn't follow them anymore, and then would cut up wherever he was going, cut in, cut out, however he was going to run that play. So something positive that I took from it was him trusting his blockers, which is something that a lot of running backs don't do, even in the upper levels, like in the NFL. A lot of backs will just either cut to where they're supposed to go right away or sit back too long. But Emmons was on multiple plays. I noticed him hand on the lineman's back running up the field, which is something that I enjoy to see because it's kind of like a fundamental thing, and it's a good sign to have someone doing that to me.
Yeah, my kudos I'll give to Tomu as well. We're about to get into a lot of stuff here, but I at least wanted to say that I think that considering the offensive line situation that we're dealing with right now, I think we knew that Tomu was going to have to be a little bit more mobile in this game, even more so than maybe I or you want him to be. But he was going to have to be because he was definitely under pressure in this game. It's a phenomenal job by Birmingham. It's one of the strengths of their team is they create havoc on defense. Knowing all of that, Tomu was able to juke and navigate the pressure better in this game. I believe that, there were a couple plays. He found O'Grady after juking a defensive end out of his socks and breaking a sack. He found him on the sideline. And then also the first touchdown of the game, the touchdown that put us up at halftime was a scramble to a sidearm throw to a sliding Rashad Davis, and he put it right. It was a little bit of a schoolyard play, but they got it done, man. And most of it's because Jordan Tomu, and to be honest with you, he probably could have ran for a bunch of more yards, but he saw what was open and he chucked the rock instead of tucking it and running. But that's all because he created with his feet. But so that's my good. But I'll let you start with the breakdown of what we didn't unfortunately get out of this offense. I have a long list, man, but I'll let you start and then I'll chime in.
So I'm gonna go back to Emmons again real quick. I just gave him some credit. Now I'm gonna knock him down a few pegs real quick. There was one play that I noticed that made me very angry. It was a run to the left. And instead of cutting to the left, he tried to cut back to the right. And then instead of cutting back to the right, he just ran straight back. and I think it was a loss of like 15 or something yards. Like it was insane. It was not a good run. And the fact that our leading running back, I'm not going to say our leading rusher because Tomu was our leading rusher, but our leading running back had, I believe, 18 yards on the day.
That's correct.
So that's not something that I was very, very impressed with, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely could not get anything going on the ground. 53 yards, 34 of those are Jordan Tomu.
Exactly.
And that's not the first time that this has happened. I mean, we do know that Jordan is mobile and all that stuff, and they do run some draws, but not in this game. I don't think they ran a lot of. They maybe teased an RPO every once in a while.
Yeah, I think there was 2 or 3, and that was it.
But Emmons gets 11 carries, 18 yards total, and then Washington just they learned real quick that Washington was not going to be the answer. 3 carries for 1 yard, and I mean even that is like, oh, he actually was on the positive end of the spectrum.
That's my boy.
Yeah, man, I didn't think there was going to be a positive. There was going to be a negative on that one, but man. Well, and part of that is this game plan of this team, but part of it is also the offensive line, sure, and also Birmingham just having a really good front seven in terms of limiting what teams are able to do. So, I thought it was, or what they were able to limit what we were able to do anyway. So, we were running into a brick wall all day, and that wouldn't have been so bad. It's just that the passing game was completely out of rhythm. I mean, even the first touchdown was scrambles and making chicken salad at a chicken something else, and it was just like, man, and I don't want to just blame the offensive line, because like I'm taking that for granted. However, sometimes the offense didn't know the play clock. We had to burn a timeout on 3rd and 5.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was bad passing. We did get, like, even when we were getting things in our favor, it was like, oh, this is not pretty. We got a PI flag on 3rd and 5, okay? Jordan Ta'amu throws it to the sideline and gets a PI flag, but it was thrown behind the receiver and thrown into coverage. And it's like, this was not a good throw. It was not to an open receiver. And thankfully, when they went to go, play basketball, box out, get the rebound, they ran into each other and they called it a PI flag. There was another deep throw, wildly overthrown, and even on top of that, it was an offsides penalty on us, so like that play wouldn't have worked out. But it just was like not good decision making, not good passing. Ta'amu just didn't look locked in. He made some plays. I mean, even one of the plays to O'Grady early as a broken coverage play, or there was a penalty. There was an offsides penalty on the defense, and we got a free play out of it, and they chucked it over a linebacker's head to O'Grady. But even that was like a little high. Just there were a couple times where he just threw it into the dirt on a screen play or something. But even when Ta'amu could get the ball to a receiver, sometimes sometimes we would not run the route. Washington stops mid-route, wide open on a screen. They called the right play. They get the right coverage. They make the right check down. And he's, he just stops running. He just stops running the wheel route out of the backfield. And so at first glance, here I am saying, oh, Jordan Ta'amu overthrew him again. But then it's like, wait. On the replay, you see he just stops running. It's like, what are you doing, man? Yeah.
So the one overthrow that I saw that really upset, I say upset like it actually affected my whole day, but like the one overthrow that upset me in the game was the one to O'Grady. He had the linebacker beat in coverage, and it would have been a touchdown all day. Like, without a doubt, would have been a touchdown. And he overthrew him by probably 4 or 5 yards. Like something that a quarterback at any or at any pro level, I should say. I'm sure you have high school quarterbacks that are doing that, and it's not out of the ordinary. But to see someone who has been just this, we've said it the last couple episodes, this legendary spring league quarterback making kind of Paxton Lynch-ish mess ups.
Got him in there. There you go. You got him in there. You got. I can. If that's on your bingo card, make sure you get that there.
You guys got it.
100%. He has not lived up to the expectation. We keep saying that. He's been doing okay, but not great. And but in this game, unfortunately, there wasn't like a lot. Like, I wish there was like, man, this one player was just playing out of his mind and was making all the plays. And if everyone else would have just stepped their game up, we would have won. This was, for all intents and purposes, like they were just sticking around. The defense was keeping them in it, and thankfully the 10 points they scored in the first part of the half was all right to put them in position to win. But when you even had, man, there was another play that Ta'amu should have been intercepted. That this was in the first half. Is that Vinny Papale coming over the middle, and he wasn't. I mean, he was open. He was like NFL open, where like that window is very, 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 very. Like he was technically open, and Ta'amu threaded the needle. Man, he put it in there. But Vinny must have been thinking about that finale of Moon Knight or something. He's crossing the middle. He's like, man, Birmingham's got really good barbecue, and he's like, he's not thinking about football. He's not thinking about making a catch. He's not thinking about where the ball's coming out. because he's looking at the safety or something to make a block or something. I mean, I don't know, but he definitely just gave up on the route, and Jordan should have been. They dropped an interception that was just a surefire thing that would have been like for all these little tiny things that added all up. Birmingham was never able to capitalize on how bad this was. But even, I guess let me give you one thing, and then I'll flip it back over to you. But I wanted to also talk about penalties on this side of the ball for all the rough and rugged and wild and untamable defense that we had, dude. The offense was jumping off sides and like just man, holding. I mean, there was a Tamu just gets sacked right up the middle. They had no way they were going to stop this. And not only did they give up the sack, but they give up a holding penalty as well. Just no discipline on this side of the ball too. But I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna let you. Sorry, back to you, man. What else?
No, you're all good. I think that you nailed it right on the head. That it was something that penalties killed us, and just to kind of speak on it more, kind of praise to our defense in all seriousness. With how many stops our defense got, as far as like only allowing them to score 16 points, we should have, with how many times we had the ball, we should have blown Birmingham out of the water. And I feel like it's very inconsistent with how Tamu plays, and that's kind of, I hate to like put it all on him, but I think a big part of it is the inconsistency of him.
Yeah, I mean, it would help if guys would run routes and catch the ball, but yeah, Tamu, unfortunately, I did talk about it earlier, like some of the organization comes down to the quarterback.
Yeah.
Some of the route running has to come down to the quarterback, like because this was probably the worst instance of it, but it's not like this hasn't happened before in the 3 weeks leading up to it. So
Yeah.
Whatever it is in the full team practices or something, the leader has to speak up. And I mean, we're not there. We're not in Birmingham. We're not. We don't
exactly.
know. Okay, so look, we're two guys on a computer talking smack about pros here, but I at least want to see growth, right? And this game, I didn't see growth. This game, I saw people holding on by the skin of their teeth, and we had a chance, but we didn't get it done. Moving on, man. One thing I wanted to bring up, and maybe you'll disagree with me here, but we need to cut the cute play calling out of this offense, man. There were so we didn't get the John Franklin experience this week.
Yeah.
With all we didn't get the Wildcat, so there's at least that. We didn't get all this stuff. But the end arounds and the flea flickers and the Statue of Liberty's coming up next, and like they're gonna do a fumble-rooski in week 6, and it's just like we couldn't get anything going on the ground, and we couldn't get anything going in the air. So then they went to the annexation of Puerto Rico plays, and it's like, and I'm just like, can we just we just cut this? We should not be. I don't want to practice these things. We need to cut this out. We need to say, if you can't get 4 yards rushing or 7 yards passing, what are we doing? Why is this?
And I promise you I was going to bring that same thing up, because there was one play I saw and it worked out, but still it was something that I was like, why is this something that we're putting focus on? And it was like a double reverse flea flicker to Cheyenne O'Grady on the sideline.
Sure.
And it was just one of those things where I was thinking as I'm watching it, like, maybe we should all go to like an offensive dinner and get our relationships better with each other, as opposed to learning this intricate 3 different people handle the ball before it gets past play, when, like you said, we can't get the run game going. We can't throw for more than 7 yards a play. It's just, we need to work. I feel like we need to work on the basics more than we need to work on these nifty plays.
100%. Like, this is a team that lacks fundamentals, and that's why these little breakdowns cause so much damage to us in the long run. We have a game we won last week that we shouldn't have won, and we have a game this week that we should have won but shouldn't have even been in like contention for. And imagine if we didn't have imagine if we didn't have a 30-yard running back, as like the top,
exactly.
Sorry, 18 yards.
Yeah,
as a
you
leading
gave him a
running
little
back,
too
okay?
much credit there.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I don't look, that Cheyenne O'Grady play worked great. What did that set up for later in the game? What exploit did that show in their defense that we were able to capitalize on? No, it was just a weird play. Oop, okay, fool me once. But guess what? When it's 3rd and 1, you can't make the play. When it's 3rd and 10, guess what? You're not going to convert it. Those are the kind of things that, now I'm on my sound bites here, but like, that's the kind of difference between why we are not at the top of the league through 4 weeks, and why we're middle to lower end of the tier here.
Exactly. And you're spot on, because you say, like, what is that doing in the game? That's one of the instances where it worked, but realistically, to a good defense, it's not going to matter, because you're setting up these trick plays that run off of what you're good at. So if you're running a fake run, well, if you're averaging 2 yards a rush, and not even that, if you got 18 yards on the whole day, like, I'm sorry, but your safeties and your corners on a good team are not going to bite up on a running back that's averaging less than a yard a carry, or a little more than a yard a carry. It's just not going to happen. So we've got these plays that are supposed to be, we're doing a fake end around. Well, your end arounds haven't worked all game. Why are we going to bite up on it now? We'll give you the 10 yards on the end around if you want it. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me to have them doing this stuff. And I love your sound bites. Keep on them, because they are 100% accurate in what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I'll say, here's the eulogy for the offense. They get the ball with 55 seconds left at midfield, down by 6. And that's not even just a one-score game. That's in the USFL. That's half of a possession. We could score 9 points on a touchdown. First down. Pass batted down at the line of scrimmage. Second down, I think it was a screen play. It gets broken up immediately. It's a scramble thrown into the dirt. Now we're down to 3rd and 10 now. 3rd and 10, they throw it to Emmons on a sideline 2-yard pass. Even if he did catch it and broke one guy, he wasn't getting more than 5 or 6 yards. On a 3rd and 10, you're making that play with less than a minute to go. And so what does that do? You set you up for 4th and 8 with like 15 seconds left in the game. And what do? So fittingly for this game, it's a false start that triggers a 10-second runoff, and that's your ball game. Your Tampa Bay Bandits lose to the number 1 team in the league, 16-10, and they really just waste you said mediocre in the beginning. I said it was enough to get the job done. Wasn't spectacular, but they wasted that opportunity. They wasted that defensive shutdown almost of the Birmingham offense. So final thoughts on this game as we move forward and get the hell out of the Birmingham Stallions game.
Yeah, I think that you said it perfect. We blew our chance to beat the best team in the league, and that's all there is to it. We proved that they're beatable, so to the next team that plays them, do what we did, but better, essentially.
Well, don't blow your chance to get a really, really cool T-shirt. If you're listening to this, you could be wearing an awesome T-shirt from our cool shop at shop.rblrsports.com. We've got shirts that are inspired by the Bandits, the Bucks, the Lightning, the Rays, the Rowdies, you name it. We've got a lot of cool stuff there. If you use the promo code BanditBall, BANDITBALL, we're going to give you 10% off your order, off any single T-shirt you want. And a lot of these shirts, there's different color combinations. There's women's, there's men's, there's all this kind of stuff that you can choose your style, your color, your design, and you can do all that at shop.rblrsports.com. Zach, man.
Real quick question for you. You mentioned men and women's shirts. Do we have
That's
kids'
correct.
shirts?
No, unfortunately.
Okay, that was a question I wanted to ask.
Yeah, I'm looking into onesies, for my big guy here at the house. We'll have to figure that out for the Blaine boys as well. I gotta get the Blaine
Yeah.
boys in some swag.
Oh, definitely.
Well, let's get into. There wasn't a lot of news. There were a couple roster moves that as we go into this week's matchup against the Michigan Panthers. We did sign a linebacker, Anthony Butler. He is inactive for this next game, but a little bit on Anthony Butler. He's a 6'1", 230, a former UDFA for the Indianapolis Colts. He came out of last year's draft class. He played in Liberty College, and also the majority of his college was at Charlotte. Overall, he had 14.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, and 10 passes defense with 2 interceptions, and 93 solo tackles, 213 overall over 4 years there. So sounds like he from a small school, but he gets dirty, he gets it in, and we'll see what he can do at this level.
Hey, we'll take all the help we can get.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. The corresponding move was we did release Mekhi Brown, who up to this point had made 7 tackles and 3 solo on the year. However, I wasn't able to find anything on injury related or just team related. I do not know. But unfortunately, Mekhi Brown is no longer a Tampa Bay Bandit. But here's the cool stuff. Transferred to the active roster as of the last update, that we are getting Obi Melifonwu back on the roster. We have our starting safety back in here. We also have Juwan Bushelbeedy back on the active roster. He's been out and has been causing a lot of problems. So he's there. And we also have Christian Campbell back on the active roster. That dude out of Penn State, Christian Campbell, has a fan base. And I'm sure a lot of you listening to this know, or maybe you're following because of Christian Campbell. But unfortunately, still on the inactive roster is going to be Bruno Reagan, Stephen Griffin, and Antonio Reed is now on the inactive. Another guy, Derek Willies, one of the leading receivers and kick returners for this team, he is on the inactive roster. Anthony Butler and Jalen Booth also on the inactive roster. But other than that, we're getting Melifonwu back. We're getting Bushelbeedy back. Those are going to be very, very, very huge additions. And other than that, there's pretty much everyone else is questionable or better on the status report.
Yeah, so we're getting a majority of our starters back.
I love it. Yeah,
man. It's nice. We need it.
So bringing Melifonwu back, I think, is a huge, huge, huge boon.
Yeah, and that's one thing that is kind of nice, because our safeties aren't really our main issue / concern right now. So to get just better at that is a huge step up for us.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. The Michigan Panthers are the next team that the Bandits are playing. We play them on Friday night, so we are releasing this on Friday. By the time you hear this, it will not be that long until it is time, 8 p.m. on the USA Network. The 1-3 Michigan Panthers, you and I have them ranked number 7 out of 8, face the 2-2 Bandits. Your Bandits, Zach, are a 2.5-point favorite yet again, with all of the smack that we talked about how bad this offense was, and how they're 2.5-point favorite versus Michigan. The over-under is at 33.5 for this game, but
take the under.
Yeah, man. They're coached by Jeff Fisher, and I guess if we look at the last 4 weeks, they lost to Houston in week 1. They lost to New Jersey in week 2. They got a 24-0 shellacking in the Toilet Bowl versus the Pittsburgh Maulers. And then last week, they lost by 1 point to the Philadelphia Stars. Any overall thoughts you have about the Michigan Panthers?
And it is the first time since week 1 that I feel very, very confident we're going to get a win.
Yeah.
So it sounds like I'm not underestimating them. Just looking at their stats, there's nobody that I necessarily, for lack of a better term, fear on their offense or defense. Their quarterback has a whopping 431 passing yards on the whole season so far. So it's not something that I'm intimidated by.
Well, let's get into that offense. They are led by not Paxton Lynch this week. He is inactive with a leg injury. But no, they have Shea Patterson, the guy that was the number 1 draft pick in the USFL, and also the guy that started over Jordan Ta'amu when they were in college. Shea Patterson in 4 games, 431 yards at a 54.5% completion rate with 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, including all 3 of them happening last game against Philadelphia. He is mobile. He can rush if he's needed in that same game. He had 79 yards and a touchdown, so we cannot just rest on the laurels. I mean, we have a very aggressive defense, and they might use that to their advantage with some RPO, with some bootlegs, with some things to get Patterson out into the open space. But obviously his stats will tell you, Zach, that he throws into coverage. He's very prone to making mistakes. And he literally has more interceptions than touchdowns, and he almost has more incompletions than completions. So, I don't doubt that you're not shaking in your boots. However, what if I told you that they picked up Josh Love off of waivers from the historically awesome Pittsburgh Maulers? They figured it out. The Maulers figured it out. The problems that they're having is their backup quarterback that hasn't even played a lot. So let's cut him.
It's his fault. All his fault.
It's all Josh Love's fault. So anyway, he is here, and all jokes aside, Josh Love, I can't remember if I didn't see if he was on the active roster for this game, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's in there, and because of Paxton Lynch, might be getting cut if his leg injury is as bad as if it keeps him out for more than a few games. But any other thoughts on Shea Patterson other than you think that he's not good?
Whoa, I mean, I didn't say that he wasn't good. I just said I'm not worried.
You said you're better than him. You said you could do way better than he did. I heard you.
Play it back.
You said it.
No, I do think that he is maybe a top 7 quarterback in the league.
Hey, it's good.
But no, I do think that he does give a legitimate dual threat as opposed to someone like a Paxton Lynch. So I do think that he does offer that dual threat that I was expecting to see this past week with Smith, Jamar Smith. We didn't see him, which was kind of nice. We maybe would have lost by more with that, but
we didn't.
But it's something that I think we need to watch out for with him that we didn't have to watch out for this week, luckily, and it's just. I will give him props on being a very good athlete, not just a quarterback.
Who he's throwing to, number 1 receivers, Lance Leonard Jr. out of 31 targets. He has 134 yards total and a touchdown. And Devin Ross with 21 targets, 11 receptions, and 108 yards. Not setting the league on fire at all with their offensive prowess. But they do also throw out of the backfield. Cameron Scarlett has caught a few balls out of the back, and Cameron Scarlett's a guy in the 3rd phase of the game, in the kick return game. He is a legitimate threat. We cannot, that hasn't been an issue yet. However, this is a phase of the game that we cannot take lightly this week. Cameron Scarlett has the ability to take it to the house.
So I want to throw in that I did not talk about him at all during us talking about the offense and the defense. We didn't talk about special teams too much from last week. Victor Bolden Jr. out of Oregon State. He was averaging almost 20 yards a return on punts, and he was averaging over 20 yards a return on kicks. So I do think that, unfortunately, Cameron Scarlett, as big of a Victor Bolden Jr. fan as I am, I think Cameron Scarlett is a better returner, and that is kind of scary to me.
That's interesting. Yeah. I want to see what they do with this, because I think with some of these guys that have been injured, they might throw around some guys, because they might need to keep them on the offensive side of the ball and not. But bringing a guy from special teams on to more of an active role on the offense. You don't want to lose if you've got a good thing going on the kick return, but Unfortunately, we haven't broke one yet back for a
Yeah.
touchdown, but again, it was a good return that gave us the opportunity at midfield with 55 seconds left to throw 3 incompletions and then run out the clock with a penalty. So, but to get to that point, you had to have a good kick return. So,
Yeah, you're not wrong.
on the flip side, their rush game for the Panthers, just not a lot to talk about. Their offensive line just does not create a good blast right off the snap. Reggie Corbin is their leading rusher, 308 yards total. That sounds really good, right? I mean, 308 yards in 3 games, like, dude, that's pretty good. Well, he had 152 in the last game, and 88 of those was on one single play. So, big play ability. He has done it. However, is that going to be the norm? Not against this defense. I really do expect them to snuff out the run, just not a lot to talk about with their offense. They don't score a lot. They don't do a lot. Talent, sure, maybe, yeah, but they just haven't been able to put it together for one reason or another, which is with Jeff Fisher behind the helm. I don't know if that's should have been expected or it's not like Jeff Fisher's really putting together like high octane, fastest show on turf kind of stuff.
Yeah, I am kind of surprised that they are at the bottom because in our off-season shows, he was one of the guys. Like I think it was actually our first show that we did. I was talking about how I thought he was going to be one of the better coaches in the league, excuse me, and was going to be, was going to lead that team to success. And it's weird to see that he's not. And it's just maybe it's his fault. Maybe it's lack of talent. I don't know. I don't pay enough attention to them to know like their stars, but just like looking up the stuff that I was looking up for this show on both offense and defense, it's just like no names necessarily stick out to me, which is weird on, even on Pittsburgh. Well, maybe not because I can't think of anyone that plays for Pittsburgh. So, I mean, just like those two teams, I can't think of anybody. So it's kind of makes me wonder what it is, whether it's just lack of talent or coachability.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about their defense before we get out of here. The Panthers' defense, they do give up a lot of rushing yards. It's just we're not good at rushing, so I don't know if that weakness is anything that we can exploit. However, the one area that I do see, we got another opportunity to pass the ball, guys. They usually run in a zone pass coverage, and they try to not give up the deep ball. Like that's basically their only modus operandi is just to not give up the deep ball. But what I saw from the game film over the last couple of weeks is that they are open for sideline throws and slants. These guys, their zone defense has more holes in it than Swiss cheese. Quick guys, which we have big, quick receivers, and our tight ends specifically, they're going to be able, they're very soft under that second level. It might be hitches and outs and things like that, but those sidelines and underneath as they kind of play a prevent to keep you from going deep, we might be able to nickel and dime these guys to death here. They're also very, very, very susceptible to the screen because they try to blitz and they try to disrupt you up front because of making up for the fact that they just have like a prevent zone defense behind them pretty much all game. So if you can use some of that, if you can establish the run, maybe you can use a play action or a bootleg or some of these things that we've seen Tamu do well and create a little bit of havoc, create a little bit of misdirection, and open up a wide open wheel route coming out of the backfield. So have you been able to see any of Pittsburgh in depth, or has it just been all highlights and stuff like that?
You mean
like just some of their game film, like some of the stuff they do.
Some of their game. I've watched some of the highlights on my go-to source for just highlights is YouTube because USFL posts their stuff there. So I watched the highlights there, and I've seen some of their highlights, and again, it's something that like I think I don't want to talk over it too much because you said everything that I'm feeling. I think they are very susceptible to short passes. I don't think we're going to have any 20-plus yard passes in this game. But I do think we're going to do kind of exactly what Birmingham did to us. You know, I've said it a few times now, and you've said it, but death by 1,000 razor blades. Like, it's going to be 5 yards here, 8 yards here, 10, maybe a 15er here, but I don't think we're going to beat them deep, and I don't think we need to. I think that fits our play style much better.
Yeah, I see that there's going to be opportunities for yak. I mean, you break a tackle, turn a 7-yarder into a 12-yarder, turn a 12-yarder into a 20-yarder. Like, there's definitely things that we can do that if Tamu can find a guy in the second level, 7 to 10 yards or whatever, and then let's say it's O'Grady or whatever, and then that guy just is able to turn up and run, break one tackle, now you're gone in a foot race against some of these guys. So, but there are a couple guys I do want to shout out. Up front, there's Frank Ginda. This is their leading tackler. He's also a spring league traveler. He's been in the NFL with a few practice squad teams over the years. He played in the AAF and he played in the XFL. This dude right now, he has 9 tackles. He's got a sack and he's got a tackle for loss. And this is a dude that, if I had to pick one guy that I would say, watch that dude. You were saying, like, I don't know who to look for. Well, listeners, Frank Ginda is like, he is their linchpin in their defense. And playing with him is a defensive end by the name of Jaquan Bailey, who's very raw, but he has a high motor. And this is a dude who also has a sack. He had a really good tackle for loss and a pass deflection. He hasn't been lighting it up or anything, but what I saw the game film is this dude is a guy who can, if our offensive line plays as bad as they have, even with some of these guys coming back, Jaquan Bailey can cause some havoc up front, and Frank Ginda, he stays at home, he plays he plays solid defense, he's a sound tackler, and he wants to wreck your stuff. So, with that said, I mean, I don't want it to sound like we're just going to trounce these guys. It's going to be 100-0. There are opportunities, but that question mark, Zach, is, are we going to beat ourselves more than they beat us?
Oh, okay. So I like that question, but a question that I'm going to ask you now, you kind of said it's not going to be 100-0.
Correct.
But what do you think what do you think the outcome is going to be?
My score prediction of this game is that it's going to be a very, very low scoring affair. I have your Tampa Bay Bandits winning by the score of 17-12.
Ooh, okay. I thought we were going to have the same score prediction again, but we're not. I'm not going to give them 12 points. No. I'm not giving them 12 points. I am giving it 17-6 Tampa.
17-6, yeah. I don't expect there to be a whole bunch of offense in this game. I mean, it could be. There again, I think we've been really optimistic. Week 1, we're like 35, 38. We're like, oh, they're just going to air it out. They're going to score all these touchdowns, right? And I think we underestimated how quickly this offense, or how slowly they were going to gel, and then plus you add in a poked tire here and there with an injury, and all of the dominoes have not. How do I sum this up before we get out of here? The house isn't getting blown over, okay? It's just that it creaks everywhere you walk, right? like every baseball.
It's just an old house. It's just a very old house.
It's like it sways in the wind, but but you feel the breeze, but like the roof hasn't fell off of it yet, okay? There's still time that we can turn all the stuff around. For all of the ups and downs and everything, we're 500, and
yeah, exactly.
Only one team is leaps and bounds ahead of us, and that's it. Other than that, we win this week, which we should win. We win this week. We're now 3-2. We're back at the top of the power rankings at some point, and maybe this is a get right game. Maybe this is the game that we figure out. We take away the junk plays. We figure out how to run the ball. We figure out how to move the chains on offense. We figure out how to not throw it over a guy's head 10 yards. Maybe this is the week that happens, but I don't know.
And I think that if we have a week it's going to happen, it's going to be this week.
It has to be. Well, I was talking about power rankings. Before we get out of here, the very last thing, let's get to our power rankings, Zach. What are you thinking this week? How do you have them ranked?
So not much has changed from last week, in all honesty. I've got Pittsburgh rocking at 8 still because they are just garbage.
Horrible.
I think we've mentioned it a few times. I'd put them lower if I could.
They suck.
Yeah. I have Michigan at 7.
Okay.
I've got the Houston Gamblers at 6 and us at 5. And truthfully, we had talked about it before the show, and I agree. I do think that Houston might be overall a better team than us right this second, but we did beat them. So with us beating them, I'm putting us at 5.
Right.
Then I have Philadelphia Stars. I know that I've been higher on them than you've been in recent weeks, but I do have Philadelphia up at 4, New Jersey at 3, and then the top 2 are still the same. New Orleans at 2, and the number 1 team in the USFL, the Birmingham Stallions, at 1.
100%. I think that I have nothing to fight you on that one. I think that the Birmingham showed that they squeaked out a win against an inferior team, and you were saying Philadelphia, yeah, definitely, but they got a win. They're on a good streak right now. They barely squeaked by the Michigan team that we're about to play, so it's just more like winning is curing what they're doing. I do believe that they're gonna fall down. I believe they'll fall down eventually, but right now they're up there. But that's a team that we could leapfrog if we just put together 2 solid games. Now we're talking. Are we the 3rd or 4th best team in the USFL? So,
without a doubt.
Couple good matchups to look for. Of course, your Michigan Panthers loss is almost assured against our Tampa Bay Bandits here. But on Saturday, the New Orleans Breakers at 3-1, our number 2 team, plays the number 3 team, New Jersey, in a nice afternoon game. Birmingham gets Philly this week, so we'll see if Birmingham can actually turn on the Jets and score a bunch of points, because Philadelphia can put points on the board for sure. They're not amazing, but if you give them the opportunity, they will score more than 16 points. But at the very end, we have the Houston Gamblers at 1-3 against the Pittsburgh Maulers. This is a true test to see Houston. I think we're all saying Houston isn't the 1-3 team that their record says they are. They've come into some bad luck. They've come into some, if this went differently or that went differently, maybe things would be different. They're playing Pittsburgh. If they lose to Pittsburgh, then all bets are off, and now we have 3 teams at the bottom of the barrel. But then that also means that one of our wins is against a fraudulent Houston Gamblers team.
Exactly.
So, man, so just some things that I'm looking for in the week here. But that New Jersey Generals versus Breakers game should be the game of the week. What say you?
Oh, I agree 100%. I think that's going to be the most highly contested game out of all of them.
All right, well, we're getting out of here. That's all we had for this week. Thank you. If you made it this far in the podcast, you are the MVP. I'm just going to ask you for one more thing, man. Wherever you are listening to this, whether it's on Spotify or Google Play or Apple Podcasts or maybe YouTube, there's a like button, a follow button, or a subscribe button. I'm going to have to ask you to hit all of them. Just smash every one of those buttons so that you get this every single week when we drop it in your inbox. And also, if you're a fan of all the other Tampa Bay teams, we cover all of Tampa Bay sports, and you can follow it all here, as well as social media at RBLR Sports. Zach, man, I've talked your ear off this whole time. Thank you for another great week. This was more therapy than anything this week, man. So thanks for letting me get all that. I think you nailed
it right on the head.
All right, man. Well,
I needed to vent just as bad. So,
dude, I'm gonna let you get the last thing off your chest. This is your time to shine. The soapbox is yours. Thank you again to all the listeners. Zach Blaine, take us out, big guy.
Hey, Eureka said it best. We appreciate you guys so much. You guys are the real. I just said y'all because I'm in Tennessee now. I apologize, but you guys are the real MVPs. We thank you guys for coming back each and every week. I think all of RBLR just passed a new milestone. We hit 500 followers, so it wouldn't be possible without the group of you guys that listen to us. We appreciate you guys, and we thank you guys for everything you guys do. I got a little man walking in the room. You want to say go Bandits?
Go Bandits.
All right. So let's ride, baby.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.